Hey everyone, Spark the Electric Jester 3 finally came out, and I have a few things to say about it. If you don't know about Spark, the series was inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog and a few other franchises, but the noticeable one is Sonic. It started off as a 2D platformer that puts players in the role of Spark as he rushes through point A to B levels and smack enemies around. Spark 2 attempts to translate that gameplay into 3D, but puts players in the role of a different jester named Fark. These games are pretty good, though might have some hit or miss moments depending on the player. With the third game returning to the 3D gameplay, I wanted to see if the game improves on some of the issues that I had with the second game. We'll talk a little bit about that as I get into it. I rarely spoke of this game on the channel, so I might take a look at the other games at some point in the future. Anyways, I want to thank Peppered Games for providing a review code for this video. And now, let's get on to this quick message. Today I can finally announce that we've partnered with Apex Gaming PCs to bring you some pretty sweet systems. Whether you're looking for something modest, wanting to go overkill, or wanting something in between, we've got you covered with 3 pre-built PCs that myself and Apex Gaming PCs have worked on together. You can go with the Chaos PC, Super PC, or the Master PC. And I'll be honest, the names are pretty great. It's almost like they should use these names for some kind of stone or gem or something like that. Anyways, you can use the discount code GottaBeFrank for up to $250 off your purchase. With that said, let's get to the review. Spark 3 continues with the gameplay that Spark 2 had, with some changes made. The levels have been given some more substance, with more routes to take, collectibles to find, and some NPCs. Now the world doesn't look so empty. Anyways, with these levels, Spark can run, jump, and beat the crap out of enemies he comes across. Spark can dash repeatedly, which helps when you go up walls at a slow speed. You can also use it in mid-air, giving a bit more distance. And his double jump, which comes back from the previous game, is a huge plus. I'll admit it, I was actually using this through the majority of my playthrough. Using this with a Jester Dash homing attack felt pretty badass to pull off. There are going to be some enemies that can't be hit with the attack, so keep an eye out for which one you're attacking. It's the spiky ones. Don't do it on them. There is a downward dash that comes back from the second game that actually helps out a lot. I mostly use this so I can go on these speed boosters, but you can also use it when going downhill and you'll gain a lot of speed out of it. To jump the gun a bit, you can buy permanent upgrades at this shop for bits, and some of the abilities allow for greater speed. With one increasing Spark's overall top speed, the other one giving a small boost, and another is similar to Sonic's Light Dash. The only difference is that in this game, using it doesn't slow down Spark to a very slow speed. It actually gets you close to top speed, and it's really cool. It is on the same button as the homing attack, so sometimes the game will target an enemy instead, so it's all about position. The newest additions to the game are the rail grinding and wall running. Wall running took a bit to get used to, but it's pretty simple. Get to a position to wall jump, then boost. Rail grinding is something that took me by surprise with how intuitive the controls were. Sure, you're not trying to balance Spark, but maintaining speed was a lot of fun. You have to crouch when you're going downwards, or you could just take advantage of speed boosters. That is, until you unlock the ability to boost on rails. Then it just becomes absolutely easy. And since we are talking about going at top speed, I will say that in this game it's a lot easier to control yourself, especially when you're going on loops. For the most part, some of the loops do have very tiny walls that will keep you in the boundary. But I found that in the previous game, that was one of the big issues I had, where it seemed a little uncontrollable when you're going on those, or maybe on like a corkscrew or something. But with this game, for the most part, everything was easy to control, controlling yourself at top speed. You don't fly off the level or something, so it's a big plus for me. The controls are much better in this game. So some of the levels will have occasional gimmicks, but none of them really break the pace of the game, and they actually do a great job of teaching the player how to deal with them. Like the air bubbles or the fall damage. Funny because at first I wasn't sure how I was taking damage, but yeah, the game explains it to you. You can only fall so much until you actually take damage. The one that I wasn't really a fan of is this weird glider thing. The idea is that you're supposed to rotate around, and I just found it to be way too sensitive, so sometimes I would just absolutely spin out for just trying to make slight adjustments so I can avoid either lasers or fire. It wasn't really my favorite one to go through, and I kind of dreaded going through them a lot. I'm going to jump the gun one more time and bring something up. In the second game, you could actually parry specific obstacles and it would go towards your energy meter, which really helped out in that game and actually made a lot of those obstacles very easy and not really worth keeping around. But in this game, you don't have that luxury, so anything that could be potentially harmful is actually going to hit you. You're not going to be able to parry your way through everything. I find it to be a shame because I thought it was cool, but I'm also glad that it's gone so that way the player doesn't have to default to shielding all the time. Now they have to actually jump around or dash through or whatever they need to do to get around it. Vehicles are also in the game. In fact, it's actually one of the first things you control when you start a new game. Turning the car is fine, though I feel like the turns are a little too wide and it's a little too easy to... I've had this happen twice. But aside from that, no complaints from me. Very easy to control, very intuitive controls. I like it. I just wish there was like a cool jump or something you could do, you know? There's also these flying sections, and I'm going to be honest, controlling this is far more intuitive than I thought it would be. In fact, I found it easy to play this as I played the normal 3D levels, where I don't have to fight every single enemy, and avoiding them is not going to be to my detriment. Though I don't get to avoid every single enemy. But yeah, it's not that bad. You have little bullets, but then you have large missiles that have a cooldown on them, and movement is surprisingly fluid and great. I honestly don't have that many complaints about it. Most levels are point A to B platformers, but others will have certain objectives, such as collecting medals. This actually brings me to how the player can be ranked. Players looking for a bit more can explore the levels, get every token, fight all the things, and rack up a high score, or go through it as fast as humanly possible. These will earn the player a different star medal depending on which threshold they went past. Either speed, points, or finding the collectible medals around the level. The first two are pretty easy to understand, and there isn't a lot stopping the player from accomplishing these. The one issue I have is with the exploration one. I find the medals to be a band-aid solution to the issue that the player has no real incentive to explore. Even if there was some kind of incentive, the areas that they give you to explore are very overwhelming because there's just so much to cover for one medal. Yeah, there is a beacon that kind of gives it away, but some of these levels are a bit much because of their size. I really wish there was a better way to do this, but honestly, I can't really think of one. I just kind of go through the fastest route that I can possible because I don't find the exploration to be all that fun. Once in a while, you'll need to stop and fight a couple enemies to make progress, which is a great segue to the combat. It's not exactly like the previous games, but some elements do carry over. You can smack around enemies with basic combos, but more attacks can be purchased at the shop. You can even use a power-up to increase the amount of damage you do, or even teleport Dragon Ball Z style to the nearest enemy. You can also use this explosion, which is pretty neat. It does take a bit from your energy meters, so you'll need to fight a bit or parry attacks to fill it up. With the difficulty I played on, it was pretty easy to take on bosses or groups of enemies. Enemy attacks have changed a bit as well, though they still telegraph their attacks. The difference is which ones they cycle through, so it means that you'll take a few more hits than you would have in the previous game. Aside from that, I still found it to be the weakest part of the game, especially near the end, but I'm not going to spoil that. I will say that if this was on a harder difficulty, I'm sure I would get a greater challenge out of it, but I played everything on default. When it comes to graphics and setting, the game looks a little bit better than the previous game. There's a bit more detail with the assets, Spark's jacket is a welcome addition to its design, and I genuinely enjoyed the NPCs, it's a nice touch. As for the music, it's fine. Just don't ask me to identify any music except for Double Moon Villa, because I could not tell you what it is. It does sound nice, but it's also easily forgettable. Unless you play through the level many times or recognize music from previous games, there isn't that much that you're going to remember after a full playthrough. Even the boss music gets mixed with the rest of the soundtrack because there's no vocal themes anymore. As cheesy as they were in the previous game, it was a highlight because they were still pretty good, and sometimes you need a little bit of cheesy music. If you haven't played the previous two entries, the game catches you up to speed after the Double Moon Villa level. A good amount of the backstory is in these cutscenes through a CRT TV. The events that happen in the present time in the game are actually animated, thankfully, and include this Banjo-Kazooie style sound effect when they speak. It works. I can't really say a whole lot more about it because I want to avoid completely spoiling the game because it's new. But if I can give a bit of a hint towards some spoiler content, I will say this: the last bit of the game is unnecessarily long. It's not difficult or anything, but it was getting close to 50 minutes to play the level, then deal with some cutscenes, some other events, all without a single break. Like, chop it up into segments or something. Spark 3 is a good attempt to fix issues with the previous game, but the execution could use a bit more work. It's still fun to go at full speed, but the options for exploration is very limited when it isn't overkill. The combat doesn't slow down the game very much, but it's still on the easy side. I was able to beat the game in about 5.5 hours, but the game can be replayed to gather medals or even play the New Game Plus, which would carry all of your upgrades over. I know I got a code for the game, but I'm gonna be real with you. I think the game's a bit expensive with its price tag of $25. But if you can get a lot of playtime out of this, then yeah, go for it. But if Spark 2 was just an okay game to you, then I would maybe wait on a sale for this. And that'll do it for Spark the Electric Jester 3. Hey everyone, thank you for watching today's video. I know it's a bit shorter than my previous one. Let's not talk about that. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to click like or sub to the channel if you're new. If you have Spark 3, let me know what you think about it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What changes would you make to it? What suggestions would you make? use the comment section for that, and yeah, let's get a discussion going on this game. At this time, I want to shout out the supporters of this channel. The $1 tier members have their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen, but the $5 tier members receive an actual verbal shout out. They are Dork in a Hat, Tactical Discord, Martin YT Plays, and Ryan Rolves over on Patreon. If you want to support the channel with a monthly contribution, you can use the join button below the video or use the Patreon link below at patreon.com/GottaBeFrank. I also know I don't shout out Twitch subs very much, probably because I don't have that many. I'm very inconsistent with Twitch streaming, but they also get the same benefits that channel members and Patreon members get as well. The reason I'm shouting out the Twitch channel is because I'm going to be coming back to streaming on September 2nd at 2 p.m. Pacific time with Sonic Mania Crowd Control. I know it took a long time into the video for me to announce it, but if you heard it, then you heard it. Twitch subs receive all of the same benefits, and you get all of the emotes that I use during those streams. So I'm going to try and get back to regular streaming. And yeah, this is all off the cuff, so I don't really have notes for it. I have my script, but I'm not even reading it. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, TikTok if you use it. And I usually either provide updates or do some kind of different post. It's usually something random or something from my streams. Those will all be linked in the description. Those will be in the description down below. And with that said, I hope you all have a wonderful and safe day. I want to thank you all once again for watching today's video, and I will catch you in the next one. Until then, take care.